I don't know about you, but these past few months of COVID-19 has been such a crazy time for me that I find I'm really tired. I mean, really tired. I'm in need of a vacation, a getaway. I'm weary. I could use some downtime, some rest. I've been busy feeding school kids and working the community garden all these weeks. And as we think about transitioning towards summer, Heather and Emma and the other teachers from Pinehurst who have been faithfully serving meals every day for a while, and then when we moved to 3 days a week for the past 13 weeks, they are ready for a break. And thanks to Don and a friend of his and my friend Susie from the Restoration Project, we are prepared to give them their well-deserved break. I wasn't planning on taking a break except when we go on vacation in August, if we get to go. But the other day when I was setting it up with Susie, and Susie asked me if I would like to have a break. At first I said no. And then the more I thought about it, the more I thought, you know what? It might feel good to have a little break. You see, when we're tired, when we're weary, when we would like to take a break, when we feel in need of rest, and we hear the words of Jesus, "Come to me, all who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and my burden, the burden I give you, is light." Those words, when we hear them, become just the invitation our heart is longing for. Those words have great appeal and are just what we are wanting to hear. Where is that rest, we ask? How can I embrace the light yoke and the easy burden and find the rest that Jesus seems to promise in that invitation? It's a common way of understanding that particular invitation of Jesus. In fact, just this week I saw on Facebook a post from a church that read, "There's a lot going on in the world today, and after a while our souls can start to become tired. They become tired in a way that sleep, time alone, binge watching TV, or anything else can't even help. Our souls need true rest. The only one who can give your soul true rest, the true rest they long for, is the one who created us. Spending time in God's presence, digging into his word, listening for what he is speaking to you, and truly being still in the presence of God is the only way our souls will experience true rest." The post went on to say, the world right now is heavy. Our souls need rest. Our souls need Jesus. Take some time to rest in his presence today. Let him rejuvenate your soul and give you eyes to see the world like he does and a heart to love people like he does. And then they ended the post with the invitation, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with their assertions that there is a lot going on in our world and we are tired. Our souls are weary. And Jesus can quench the weariness we feel. He can and will if we draw near to him. That is 100% accurate. However, what is wrong is the assertion, or maybe the dislocation, of the one verse they quoted from the rest of the verses that Jesus speaks in Matthew 11:25-30. Jesus is in no way inviting us to find the kind of rest that church Facebook post talked about in these verses. And because our souls are weary and we recognize our need for rest, we hear that invitation and we read that Facebook post and we're drawn to it. We say, yes, I need that. And we don't question it. You see, to better understand what Jesus is inviting us to, we must put that verse back in its context. And we must understand what Jesus meant by the word yoke. Here it is in context. Come to me, all you who are weary and carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle of heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light. Now, as a farm boy growing up in a farming community, I always heard the word yoke explained that it was a wooden apparatus that hooked two oxen together so that they could pull a plow or a wagon and share the load in doing so. If they had a yoke on, it would be more equally distributed. It would more equally distribute the load, and each one would experience a lightened load. And while that is true, and that is the purpose of a yoke in regards to oxen, it is not necessarily what Jesus means when he uses the word yoke in this teaching. And let me also be clear, Jesus isn't referring to the inside of an egg either. For a rabbi who spent a lot of time engaging students, teaching students, the yoke was a set of teachings that they imposed on their students. The yoke was a set of commands that the students must adhere to. And since a rabbi is a Jewish person, a Jewish religious leader, and was given the law of Moses, they had 613 laws to teach their students. These laws were all about relationship with God, relationship with each other, and they were all about how you were a faithful Jew. The yoke is 613 commandments strong. 613 strong. Now, there's nothing easy about obeying 613 laws, let alone remembering 613. Right? I mean, just for the sake of illustration on how hard this might be, the 613 laws that they had to remember and obey included the 10 Commandments, the Big Ten. Can anyone recite the 10 Commandments quickly, verbatim, in order? Don't look them up, just off the top of your head. You might be able to get them all in time, but I bet no one can get all 10 without stopping for a while to think about what they are. And that's just 10. Imagine 613. And knowing them and obeying them are two entirely different things. Imagine the stress and the weight of that. Now, if I asked you what did Jesus say the greatest 2 commandments were, I bet most of you could get those, could spout them off right off the top of your tongue. I mean, what are they? Yeah, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. See how much easier that is? In Matthew 22, we read of an exchange that Jesus has with a Pharisee who was trying to trap Jesus. He asked Jesus, "Which is the most important commandment in the law of Moses?" To which Jesus replied, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. That is the first and greatest commandment, and a second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself." And then Jesus makes a very telling, very important, very significant statement. The entire law, he says, and all the demands of the prophet are based on these two commands. The entire law and all the demands of the prophets is where the 613 commands come from. So Jesus is saying that all 613 are based on these two. Jesus is simplifying things. So if the yoke is easy and the burden of the yoke is light, what Jesus is inviting us to is not rest, but to mission. As nice as it sounds, as nice as it feels to hear this as an invitation to rest, I really don't think Jesus meant it that way. He was calling us to action. He was calling us to mission. And in order to carry out our mission, he is simplifying it to make it less burdensome. He is lightening the load, if you will. The challenge, the yoke. The yoke Jesus is giving us is this: to become love by loving God and loving others. Loving God and loving your neighbor. We find rest for our souls in the simplicity of the yoke, not necessarily in the ease of fulfilling the yoke. It isn't easy to love our neighbor as ourselves, is it? And depending on who the neighbor is, some are easier to love than others. But that doesn't excuse us from working at it. And to be clear, this mission that Jesus invites us to, he qualifies. He qualifies those who we are to love by including a challenge to love even our neighbors, our enemies. Or in other words, the people who are hardest or harder to love. And we all know people like that. Not everybody in the world is easy to love, but we are called to love even those who are hard to love. And further, as we discussed last week, Jesus defines our neighbor not by proximity or like-mindedness, but those persons who are in need of experiencing mercy. You see, these words of Jesus are not an invitation to find rest, but rather they are an invitation to join him in mission. As we say here at Community of Joy, first we must receive love. Then, once we've received the love, we can give the love. And as we receive and give love, we will become love. That's the mission that Jesus invites us on. Our friends at Old Town Deli get it. They shared this post on Thursday. They wrote, "We don't talk much about the individual people we help in the community, yet today's story is amazing. One of our homeless community members walked into our doors maybe 6 months ago. He was struggling bad and living under a bridge. He would say that he knew he could come in here for food and prayer. Well, it's been a month or two since we have seen him until today. He drives up and parks in front of our door. Then he walks in a Walmart uniform to share his news. He shared that Walmart had given him a shot and he had found a place to live. And after a few weeks, he got promoted to supervisor. He said he just wanted to let us know, and he thanked us for helping him while he was down. We praise God for what he is doing in our community. We know there are many variables that led to our friend's success, yet we are happy to be a part of his come up story. We don't share this story for you to say what a good job we do in helping our community member while he was down, nor are we looking for people to start donating to us. We share this in the hopes that many of you will go out of your way to be kind to someone, in hopes that many of you will be inspired to give someone a shot, even if things don't add all the way up. All of us have needed someone's help and love at some point in our lives. Let's start today looking for opportunities to be a blessing. And for those of you who are already going above and beyond for our community, keep going. Your seeds of love and kindness will grow into an amazing tree of a restored life one day. And this isn't an isolated thing. Last week, out of the blue, I got a phone call from a friend of mine who said, "I thought you could use some good news." I mean, who can't use good news these days? I love hearing good news stories. A couple weeks earlier, he had called me to ask if I knew whether the homeless shelters in our area were open yet or not, as they had stopped taking in new guests during COVID. Indeed, I did know, and indeed they were back to receiving new guests. My friend who called me told me that he, in his travels around town, had met a guy named Mike, who was in need of a place to stay and was a mess emotionally. So my friend thought he could use a break, and he used his personal money to put Mike up in a hotel for the weekend and was willing to do so longer if needed. But when Monday came, my friend was able to take Mike to a shelter and get him a place. A little time passed before my friend called me with the good news, but he had seen Mike, and Mike had told him that in the meantime he had gotten the unemployment that he had been waiting for, and it was backdated, so now he could get a place of his own, and furthermore, he had found a job. Amazing what a little love at just the right time can do for someone. Brothers and sisters, the invitation that we have from Jesus is to join him in his mission to become love in the world. Not to lay back and rest, but to step up and love. Love widely. Love wildly. No strings attached. Are you in? I am. Join me.